The burden of thoughts. There was once a man named Zain, a hard-working accountant who lived in a bustling city. Every day, Zain's life was structured, his routine always the same. He'd wake up early, grab a quick breakfast, and head to the office, where endless numbers and deadlines consumed his time. From the outside, it seemed like he had it all together: a good job, a comfortable apartment, and enough savings to live peacefully. But inside, Zain was fighting a battle no one could see. Each day, his mind buzzed with negative thoughts. He doubted his abilities, worried about every mistake he might make, and constantly replayed embarrassing moments from his past. "You're not good enough," his mind whispered. "You're just lucky to be here. Sooner or later, people will realize you don't belong." These thoughts were like a cloud that followed him, heavy and relentless. Zain had been living with these thoughts for years. At first, he dismissed them, thinking it was normal stress. But over time, the negative thoughts grew louder. They crept into every corner of his life: his relationships, his work, even his sleep. No matter what he tried, Zain couldn't escape them. One day, after a particularly long day at work, Zain's boss called him into the office. The tone in his boss's voice instantly set Zain on edge. "Zain, we need to talk," his boss said. "You've been missing deadlines and your work hasn't been up to your usual standard. Is everything okay?" Zain's heart sank. His worst fears were coming true. The negative thoughts surged. "See, I told you. You're failing. You're not good enough." He left the office that day feeling defeated. Walking home, Zain felt an overwhelming heaviness in his chest. It wasn't just the stress of work. It was the constant barrage of thoughts that had taken over his life. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt truly happy or content. As Zain approached his apartment, he noticed something strange. On the sidewalk, there was an old man sitting on a bench, holding a large backpack. The man seemed tired, yet peaceful. Curiosity tugged at Zain, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he sat down beside the old man. The man smiled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "Long day?" the man asked, as if he already knew. Zain nodded, letting out a deep sigh. "You could say that." The old man leaned forward slightly. "It's not the work that's weighing you down, is it?" Zain blinked, surprised by the man's insight. "How did you know?" "I've carried that weight before," the old man said, patting the large backpack beside him. "Most people think it's their circumstances, their jobs, or other people making them feel burdened. But often, it's their own thoughts." Zain frowned, intrigued. "What do you mean?" The old man opened his backpack, revealing that it was completely empty. "This bag represents the mind," he explained. "Throughout life, we fill it with thoughts, some good, some bad. But the negative ones are like heavy stones. The more we collect, the heavier the bag gets. Most people walk around every day, carrying a backpack full of negative thoughts without even realizing it." Zain stared at the empty bag. "That's exactly how I feel," he admitted, "like I'm carrying a huge weight, but I don't know how to get rid of it." The old man smiled again. "It's simple. You have to unpack the stones." Zain raised an eyebrow. "Unpack them?" The old man nodded. "Each negative thought is like a stone weighing you down. You can't just ignore it or push it aside. You have to take it out, examine it, and then decide whether it's worth keeping." For the first time in a long while, Zain felt a glimmer of hope. "How do I start?" The old man handed Zain the empty backpack. "Start by writing down every negative thought that comes to your mind. Don't judge them, just write them down. Once you have them in front of you, read them aloud and ask yourself if they're true. Most of the time, you'll find they're just stories your mind has created. When you realize they aren't true, they lose their power." Zain hesitated but decided to give it a try. He spent the next few days writing down every negative thought that came to him. "You're a failure. You'll never succeed. People don't like you." The list seemed endless, but each time he wrote one down, he would stop, reflect, and ask himself if it was really true. Slowly, he began to notice a change. Some of the thoughts, when spoken aloud, sounded ridiculous. Why did he believe he was a failure when he had accomplished so much? Why did he assume people didn't like him when he had supportive friends and colleagues? As Zain unpacked each negative thought, it felt like a weight was being lifted. He started to replace the negative thoughts with more realistic and positive ones. "I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best. I've succeeded before, and I can do it again. I'm worthy of love and respect." Weeks passed, and the cloud that once followed him began to dissipate. His work improved, his relationships became more fulfilling, and for the first time in years, Zain felt light. One afternoon, Zain walked back to the same bench where he had met the old man. But the bench was empty. The man was gone, but the lesson he had taught Zain remained. Zain smiled to himself, knowing that the weight he had once carried was no longer his burden to bear. Moral of the story: negative thoughts are like stones in a backpack. Each one adds unnecessary weight. By acknowledging and challenging these thoughts, you can free yourself from their burden, transforming your mindset and your life. It's not about ignoring negativity, but understanding that you have the power to change how you think and feel.